Everyone doing today?
Good. How are you? I've missed you.
I know I miss seeing everyone too. Seems like it's been almost a month since we
I
got
know.
together. Yeah. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, good, brother Justin. You're looking smart.
I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to get like you. That's all.
Good evening, everyone.
Jerry, how are you?
Brother Jerry, how are you doing?
I'm doing
How are
okay
you?
today.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I want to thank everyone for all the prayers and condolences during the time of my brother of his passing. I just want to say that right quick. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And sorry again for your loss. We're together.
Greetings and you're welcome, Brother Jerry.
Yes, thank you, my brother.
Hey, Notable.
Hi. Hey, Avanti.
How are you?
All
How
right.
are you? Good.
So I know that time is precious, and so I just want to thank you all for sharing some of your time with us as we continue to push forward with our mission of reconnecting as Grassfields. And so Brother Boris is just logging on, so I think that's 4 panelists. So we're only missing one. But with that being said, if you all want to press, we can press forward and let them play catch up, or if you wanted to just wait a couple of minutes to see if the last person would come, we could do that as well. But I'll leave that up to you. What do you think? You can just write it in the chat. We could press or we could wait. It doesn't matter.
So
I think we could move forward. And
Yeah,
those who join, can join the discussion.
Mhm.
I can't stay on the meeting
not too easy.
not too long. So if you would like for me to share before I go, because I have to be somewhere at 6 o'clock. So if you want me to share early, I could do that.
Absolutely. So here's Brother Bill. Okay. So with that being said, I want to welcome you all to the ReConnected Grassfields platform. If this is your first time, we're just an organization who is trying to stay or reconnect back to our roots after we either found out our DNA or some of us are actually born in the continent as well, but we're just trying to reconnect specifically back to the culture of the Grassfields where most of us are descended from. So with that being said, we have these Zoom meetings periodically on Sundays, which is open to everyone here. So if you have a topic that you would like to come on and share, that's open to you as well. But this Sunday, I just wanted to, I created this topic, Demystifying African Spirituality, just to see if we could get some panelists who can share their thoughts and their experiences on what this African spirituality really is all about, clear up any misconceptions and allow everyone else to ask questions that they may have not been able to ask before. Myself being a prime example, born and raised in Georgia, most of my family were Christians, still are Christians. So if I wanted to even ask certain questions about spiritual African traditional practices, I wouldn't really know where to start, especially with my upbringing. But now that we're reconnecting and we have the opportunity to meet our brothers and sisters, globally, I think this is just a great time where we can just hear from them, hear their experiences, and then also ask any questions that we may have always wanted to ask, just to get a better understanding of what our people were practicing. And hopefully with that better understanding, it'll allow us to reconnect even more. So with that being said, I welcome you all today as I go to my next slide. And this is what we're going to be talking about. I only have about 4 or 5 slides because we have about 5 different panelists. And so I would just want to throw out these 3 questions, allow each of the panelists to give their take on it, and then also allow everyone else to ask any questions in regard to those questions. And after these three, just open discussion. Everyone can put in their input, their experiences, and then we can just create a healthy dialogue from there. So we're going to talk about the role of the creator and our traditional spiritualities, the role of the ancestors, and then some common misconceptions about the traditional spirituality. So first off, I just want to allow each of the panelists to just introduce themselves very basically. Just what is your name, where are you from, and what's your background? And I'll just start off just to say, since I'm hosting, my name is Justin. My Bamileke name is Tonko, which was given to me by my adopted Bamileke mother. Her name is Mafo Gasong, and I'm from Georgia. And like I said, my background is that I found out I shared the Bamileke DNA in 2021. And so ever since then, I've just been on this journey of rediscovering myself through my lineage. So that's me. And the other panelists on here, I know we have our sister Candace, our brother Boris, our brother Michael, our brother Monkam is on here. And then we're just missing one, who is our brother Monte. And hopefully he'll join in later. So if everyone else could just briefly introduce yourself before we get started. Thank you. Mercy.
My name is Michael Mitchell. That's my government name. The name given to me in the Tikar village of Watikong is Nyeme, which is confidant of the king. My name given to me in Bamenju is Cheju. I was named after Fo Sokuju's grandfather, Cheju. And my family background is my parents, both parents were born in Jamaica. And they both have a Christian background, but at the same time, when certain things happen in life, they still, I'm not going to say my father per se, but my mother will used to consult like a traditional spiritual doctor for spiritual advice on what to do for the current situation or to advise you on your life. So that was still part of Jamaican culture. You know, it seems like a lot of the women are more into it than the men. So my father wasn't really into it, but my mother, she would at times would consult somebody for some spiritual advice. And they would either give you some things to do, like a sacrifice you may have to make, or some spiritual bath you may have to take to remove whatever is afflicting you. That's basically my spiritual background. These days, my mother is just strictly Christian. But if I go to Africa and say, you know, I consulted somebody for some spiritual advice, she'd definitely be interested. First, she would start off saying, well, you know, I'm a Christian woman, I'm a praying woman. You know, I don't believe in those things. But then she'd be interested in whatever consultation that I may have had. So, you know, it's still lingering there in the background for many people of Jamaican and Caribbean descent.
Thank you for that, brother Michael. Our sister Candace, if you're there, could you introduce yourself as well? I know you've been a guest on the show in the past as well, so excited to have you back as well.
Hey everyone, happy Sunday. I'm excited to be here with you all. And this is Amara Naima, who is very sleepy. So I'm gonna be here as much as I can until she finally just screams and then I have to run off. I am from Los Angeles, California, and I live in Houston now. Hi, Mama. And my maternal lineage is Tikar and House of Fulani from Cameroon. My mom's people, though, are from the U.S. South, so Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana. My father is from Haiti. I just recently actually found out that my mother and father's lines are related. Very interesting. Move very specifically. So I'm my own cousin, so that's great. It's not close though, so it's not creepy, but close enough to be weird. But yeah, and I think I came to African spirituality and ancestral practice after my father's passing. I do come from a lineage of Vaudouisans or Vodou practitioners in Haiti, although that's not really talked about because it's just a way of life. You don't need how you pour your coffees. Voodoo, you know, how it's part of everything. So it wasn't really talked about. And my father's mother, who did not practice Vodou, but was a natural healer with plants and plant medicine. My mother's very, very, very Christian. However, my mother's approach to spirituality and Christianity is very, very unique. And I don't think she realizes just how probably African spirituality focused her experience of Christianity even is. So I come from those lineages and I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much for sharing. So Brother Boris, if you're there, could you introduce yourself as well?
Can't hear it. Oh.
Sister Aurelia can go ahead if you don't mind.
Please, brother, go ahead.
Okay, everyone. Thanks again for being here today. My name is Vincent Moncam Chienche. So as a lot of people probably notice, I don't use Vincent a lot. So I was born Vincent de Paul Moncam Chienche. But when I start to connect to my African spirituality, I noticed that, I'm just going to use my two African names, which is Moncam, the first one. Moncam means a secret child. So Mon in the Bamileke means a child. And Kam is like a secret, like the Kemet. And Chienche means a child who always called to console other people. So Chien is being called, Chie is consoling. So I was born in Cameroon, Bamileke, and being grown up in Cameroon, at the start, I wasn't believing a lot on the African spirituality. But when you grown up and then you see things happening around you, and then you see so many things happening, and then you don't understand the question, you don't know what is happening, and then you start to understand that these things are true. So yeah, that's it. This is me.
Thank you, brother. And Brother Boris, let's see if you could unmute yourself now. Yeah, I think Brother Boris is having some technical difficulties. But yeah, if you work it out, just feel free to just jump on and then we can come back to you. But for now, am I missing anyone, Brother Moncam? As far as the panelists?
I think you went through everyone. I think you went through. I mean, the only person missing out is Brother Monte. So he may be here anytime. Okay. Now.
All right, so we'll jump to the very first topic, and which is to get everyone's perspective on what is the role of the creator, or how we call it NC. What is the role of the creator in our in traditional African spirituality? From what you've studied and from what you were taught and how you were raised. Anyone can go first.
All right, I'll go first. With Tikar spirituality, and from what I've learned of Bamileke spirituality, you communicate you communicate with the creator through the ancestors. Everything is done through the ancestors, through ancestral veneration. the creator in Tikar culture is called Veng Swap, spelled with an M in front. It looks like, as a English speaker and reader, it looks like Me Veng Swap, but it's pronounced Veng Swap. And you basically communicate with the ancestors. That's your link to the creator, the ancestors. You pour libations and you give offerings to the ancestors. A lot of people believe that it's some type of organized religion. When people inquire about spirituality, they're expecting to hear some type of organized religion, but that's not how it goes. People look for rites, rituals, ceremonies, and so on and so forth, like you're going to a religious service, like like to the mosque or to a church or something like that. Or a lot of people are familiar with the Yoruba spirituality, and people expect it to be like Yoruba spirituality, but Tikar and Bamileke spirituality is different. We communicate with the ancestors basically by the grave site. You make offerings, pour libations. The offerings come in the form of food offerings, such as palm oil, salt, even some offerings can be animal sacrifices, chicken, goat, whatever food that you're partaking in. You could share some for the ancestors.
Thank you for that, brother. Sister Candace, would you like to add to this topic as well? Sister Candace, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak a little bit. Just oh baby, come on, baby. And some of the contrast or different understanding I had about the role of creator from being a Christian, and I don't want to say my thing over to African spiritual practices, but my experience of the creator as a Christian, I had a lot of difficulty because my experience of Christianity was that you were taught to give a lot of your power away. So when you needed intervention, right, you're beseeching God to make strong intervention on your behalf. And I just remember always feeling either that I was out of alignment for something, or maybe was sinful for God not intervening in the ways in which I thought or was taught that should happen if I did what I was supposed to do. And how my understanding of the role of the creator has changed is that African spirituality has enabled me to understand that the creator has given all of these things to us within our power to use to avail ourselves of what we need, right? And that there's more of a, while I'm also looking for the ways in which my destiny or what isn't within my path to do, I'm living in that. But there is a whole range of actions where I don't have to passively wait for like God to come and save me, where I have the ability to do that. And brother mentioned, offering. Some of that is, beseeching my ancestors to help me on my behalf. But my understanding much more is that it's active. Walking with the creator is much more active, as far as I am part of it, and it's all around me, and it's within the plants that I might use to heal myself. It's within my ancestors. It's within my dreams, right? It's within taking an action. It's within signs and symbols all around. So I say that my understanding of the role of the creator has grown to be a lot more full, and that I realize that it's active, it's moving, it's present. I'm a part of it. And that being a part of it as it is moving and active, I also need to be moving and active. And that is something that, and that's a bit of a switch from my understanding of the role of creator as a Christian, switching over.
Thank you for that. And I have a couple of questions, but I just want to wait until we get through the 3 topics first, and then we can ask all the questions that you want. So please, everyone, just keep that in mind too. If you have any questions, just keep them written down, and then towards the end, after these next 2 topics, we'll be able to have that open discussion. Brother Monkem, your turn.
Yeah, I mean to add something to this topic. As when I was growing up, we know that the religion has never been any problem with our spirituality, because what we do actually in the Bamileke and Tikar, so the creator, which is Sia, which is God, he is the person between us, the ancestor is the person between us and that creator. So when we have to go and we need to visit the Bamileke area, you got the court of the skull. So when we actually visit that room, we speak to our ancestor about what we want, about the guidance we want from them. They're not going to take that guidance and the word, and then they need to speak to the sea, to God. So that's why in the Bamileke and Tikar, you're going to find a lot of people who actually practice the spirituality. They still go to the church. They can be Muslim, they can be Christian. So it doesn't stop anything. And that's what I wanted to add. Anyway. So the creator is always there. It's being acknowledged. And then we still have to do our spirituality. Yeah.
Thank you for that, brother. Brother Boris, are you able to speak now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, things seem to be better. I will also maybe start with a quick introduction about me. So my name is Boris. My full name is pretty long. So I'm Boris Vidal Gifo Wabo. And all of my name have a specific meaning, sort of. But the 2 I think are more meaningful to me are Gifo and Wabo, because Gifo is the name of my grandpa. Wabo is my family's name, so I got it from my dad. And what I found, what is important is, I got the name from my grandpa. My grandpa got it from someone, from his grandpa too, and so on. So through my name, I see a link to my past, and this is something very important to me. So I grew up in Yaoundé, the capital city of Cameroon, but I was then in search of my identity for a long time, and through my Bamileke culture and the traditions, I could learn a lot. So in terms of spirituality, I grew up as a Christian, so I went to church with my family. But as I said, I've been searching for answers, and it happened that my grandpa was a chief, so my uncle is a chief. And one of my another uncle of mine is a pastor. So I kind of grew up learning from both sides. And I think I love to think there is a lot of parallel between all of that, because to me, it seems like humans have questions about the world and about God and so on. So I got really better understanding how my culture see God and how my culture see different things. And also to make a parallel with my Christian faith, I could become a well-grounded believer. So I love to say that I love my Bamileke spirituality, and I also love what I got from being a Christian, and this is what defined me. Now, regarding this specific question, what I like about what is very important to know about the Bamileke understanding, that this is what I learned also, is that when someone die, he goes to the realm of the ancestors. And it's something extremely important to us that when you die, when you had a good life, you die, you will be with the ancestor, and you will have a good life there, and you are taking care of us, you are helping us in this life. And if you go down the line, the first ancestor is God, the creator. So when you die, you go to the creator with all the other ancestors, meaning grandpa, great grandpa, but also with God, with the main one, who is C. And it's important how to honor it. It's the same. We know how to honor our ancestor, but God is the most important because He's the creator. So we honor our ancestor in that we do good things for our siblings, our brother, because we are all related. So if you want to honor God, you need to honor people around you, your siblings, your brother, your mom, your dad. So through the fact that you do good things, you honor God. And there's also something important in what I could see from growing up and observing my uncle and family performing different rituals. The power of God is seen in different things around us. So we have a certain understanding of the power of God also through some animals and through some different facets of nature. So God is expressing Himself through His creation. So honoring God is also honoring His creation and also learning from it. For example, we have some animals are very important in our culture. I recently found out also it's because we used to be a lot of hunters, especially men in the past used to hunt a lot. So you have some specific animals, different animals, different type of animals that will have a certain expression towards what we consider to be message from the creator, especially the lion or two different animals. The fact that you can maybe you are able to, some specific people are able to maybe hunt a very dangerous animal. That means you had a certain power from God to be able to get that, to kill that animal, let's say, so because it's very dangerous. Not everyone can do that. And that also means maybe you have some power from God and you get the title or an honor from that. That's why in the Bamileke culture, there's also even a lot of names for the kings that are related to that. For example, Nantema is something we say a lot even in songs in my culture. And I think it's also related to the one who were able to hunt specific big animal. So this how to honor God is through the people serving others. How to where is God's power seen? It's seen in the nature. And if you trust in God and you're strong enough, God can make you do great things. And for in the past, being able to hunt some big animals were a big sign. And also we have different belief in the fact that some people can reincarnate themselves into animals. And this is also part of some power you can get if you honor, you're really close to God. But I'm not so well versed in that part, but this is something I know is also part of the Bamileke tradition or beliefs, as far as I know. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Brother. Thank you. So we'll transition now to the first topic, since we just kind of covered the role of the creator. If now we can discuss, since you all of you mentioned the ancestors quite a bit, and so I just would like if you could break it down to as if you're speaking to someone with no background knowledge of this type of beliefs. When you're talking about the ancestors and you're talking about this and that, if you could just break it down, who is the ancestor? Where do the ancestors exist? How traditionally did we interact with the ancestors, and also how can we best honor them? So thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna start first. So if I have to go back again to what Brother Boris said, it's quite important for us as a Bamileke Tikar to honor our ancestors through different way. One of the best way is the skull, because I mean we've been practicing that for a long time. So now how do we who is an ancestor? An ancestor first. Like Brother Monte always used to say in someone I was in meeting, it's not everybody who can be raised on the rank of ancestor. What happened in the Bamileke and Tikar when somebody passed, they're going to do a funeral, they're going to bury the person, and then probably about 7 to 10 years after that, they have to come back again and remove the skull. And then when they remove the skull, they have to proceed to a different ceremony, a different funeral, where they're going to be asking to everybody at that funeral if this person owned anything, this person did anything to someone, and then the person is happy. Now, if anybody says that, yes, I had an issue with this person, the person owed me money or anything, that issue have to be resolved before the funeral is closed. And now, if it's not closed, that means that the person is not going to be raised on the rank of ancestor. The funeral they need to start the funeral again from scratch. And when everything is done, when everything is okay, everybody is agree with everything, there's a drum that have to be between midnight and 3 in the morning. And then when they play that drum, that elevate the person to the rank of ancestor. And now the role of an ancestor now is to look after us. So we, when we remove the skull, we're gonna put it in the skull room. In the skull room, you're gonna find so many skull in there, even from people you never met, you don't even know. They're your ancestors skull, your grandparent, a lot of generation in there. So now, if you're having any issue, you're not feeling well, or there's something, you went to the hospital, you couldn't find any solution, you're gonna go in the skull room with somebody who is initiated to take you in there. It could be one of your uncle, which is a leader of the family, or somebody in the family who knows, who is initiated to actually take you in. And then you're gonna go in there. If you're gonna be speaking to your dad, you know things your dad used to like. Maybe he used to like a red one or a white one. You're gonna pour them in the floor. If you need to eat like chicken or whatever, you're gonna put some there after you spoke about what you're there for. When we go there, we're not gonna go there to say that I'm having a problem with my neighbor, I want you to maybe cause him, I want him to have an accident or anything. That is not gonna work. You go in there because maybe you got an illness and then you've been everywhere, it's not working on, or anything is not working in your life. Maybe you do everything, you got all the diploma, all the degree, you can't get the job or anything like that. Then your ancestor, you're gonna speak to the ancestor. You're just gonna ask them to open the door to look at what is not working, and you're gonna put things they like. It could be the best one, the best food, whatever thing they used to, you remember that they used to like, you're gonna put it there. And then now you need to step on the side, and then you have to wait. If you see ants coming to actually eat them things, you know that the ancestors are okay with that everything is fine. If you don't, then you need to restart the process again, or it may even require to bring a shaman to be able to help you to actually do that. So that's how we honor our ancestor, and then that's what we do. And yeah, so that's on that side. Anyone got any question? I don't.
Thank you, brother. Then can we have Sister Candace and then Brother Michael after? Sister Candace, are you there? Mm-hmm.
Hey. Thank you, Brother Moncom, for sharing that. That is amazing. And I think those of us who are, in the US side, and we're like really, really far disconnected from a lot of those practices. There's not even places where we can really, like within the States, really, where we can go and like learn that, or where people are even willing to consider you know, like holding all of our ancestors' pieces or in any space, which is such a loss, I think, you know, for us, you know, one of the things that we've lost. I have learned through my studying with Dagara elder Malidoma Somé about the ancestralization practices of the Dagara, which are very similar. One of the important pieces that I've taken that is adaptable for me, like living in the United States, is the importance of grief and water, and that shedding tears for your ancestors. I know for a lot of American people, the idea when someone passes is to be very stoic, but my understanding now is that through Vodou, through Dagara, is that you must wash them. Like it's the water that washes them, the water of grief and the wailing that washes those ancestors to the other realm. The Dagara also has a practice of, once you've washed them there, you do a practice to bring them back into the fold with the community, and then they go into the family's family shrine or altar space, where then offerings can be given to them, and that communication is continued, and they are now part of the community. When I am talking to people who may be in America, and this is all very like scary or a lot, I just remind them of, you know, Black American Southern traditions have this, right? Like the wailing at the funeral that sometimes we'll make fun of, like, ah, but these are just African practices to grieve openly for a life well lived, to grieve openly. The ancestors need that. It's required of you to grieve them. And so I just mentioned, you know, like, you know, yesterday I talked to a friend of mine, and I said, you know, think about how much more confident you feel knowing that the prayers of your grandmother continue with you as you walk every day, right? Those prayers of our grandmothers, that's mostly not scary for African-American people to think about, right? Your grandmother was a praying woman. She prayed for you and those prayers continue, right? And she continues to walk with you. And so it's this communication. So for most of us in the West, where we don't have like these continued lineages, it's an ancestral altar in a space, and having photos and names and pictures of them, a white or a red candle, and going to that space and opening up that communication, opening up that they are part of your life, they're part of your community, you're open to their guidance, you going to them for help, and trusting and knowing that it is their role as ancestor to help and intercede on your behalf, to ensure that what you're doing is upright, ensuring that the legacy of you and your family and your children to, I've heard 16 generations, like forward and backward, is clean and clear. And that they're guiding you into doing, and I focus myself on active, remembering that it has to be active, that I may be told to do a thing, right? It won't just be a feeling, like they might be like, do this, and I got to do it because that's the guiding. But that's usually how I break that down, is your grandmother, your father doesn't stop loving you when they pass, right? If they loved you here, they love you there, more clear, more freely, and having an altar or space to remember them and, you know, put things they like there. It's just a way to continue to honor that memory. And when they speak to you, or you hear something, remember that's them. If they're still here, they're still talking to you, they're still part of your life. So that's usually how I package it. And it doesn't feel so scary for those of us coming from Christian traditions. And when I tell my mom that, and as she like comes to visit and she's in the room with my altar, you know, I just say, you know, like, yeah, this is where I honor Papa and Grandma, and do you look at our people here, and here's their names, and that feels a little more comforting when you label it like family, you know, it's just our family. They're still our family.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very, very beautifully and powerfully said. Brother Boris, Brother Michael, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Go ahead, Brother Boris.
Yeah, okay. So I will maybe add my 2 cents on that. The ancestor is, an ancestor is just our forefather for mother. For elder, someone who was there before and is now deceased. And there is, because everyone in the world is affected by that. Everyone will die eventually, and everyone knows someone will eventually die. So the concept of a place we give in our society to the deaf is something universal. We have it everywhere. And in the case of the Bamileke case, we have developed a lot of rituals, and maybe we talk a lot about the ritual, but we don't think so much about the reason behind it. When someone dies, you will notice that something perish really, really quickly. When we die, our flesh we usually perish the first. So you won't see our flesh over. If you see if someone died and you look at the body, you still see the flesh after 1 day, 2 days. But if you come a month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year later, the flesh will quickly perish, you won't see much, but the skull will still be there. And this is based on that we developed the cult of skulls, because we believe that when someone died, they have a continued existence. And they go to a world where they have the ability to influence their living, but also where they're still living. So we need to honor them, because they're not dead per se. They just went to another world. And that's why we also have, on top of the cult of skulls, you will notice we have 2 funerals. So when people die, when a relative die, we have the first funeral that's really typical to most cultures, I would say. That's really close to when the person died. People are usually very sad because it's usually certain. It's usually within a month after the person died. And then it's no different to the funeral we will know in the US or any part of the world. Let's say the Christian funeral, for example. And then you have the second funeral that's really typical. And at the end of the second funeral, we have then the cult of the skulls that take place. It's not something that everyone can just do. There are some specific people who are initiated to do that and know how to do that. And the goal of the cult of skulls is to elevate the dead person to the status of ancestor. That's why the second funeral is usually not so sad. Usually when you go to the second funeral, the people are dancing, they're celebrating that the ancestor, the dead person is now an ancestor, you know? It's like the person has a place in the community of the above, and sort of also true that the person has a place also in our community, but with another form. And so this is very important to us, and it's a moment of togetherness. Usually you see a lot of people coming, people from everywhere coming. It's usually a very big feast, and people who love the person come together, and we celebrate the life of the person. And because it's not too close to when the person died, let's say that people often already got time to process the death of the person, and people, not easy to move on from person that someone died, but let's say people sort of move on, and this is just like a very important step where we say, okay, now she or he is an ancestor. He's with the other ancestors, with C, with God, and he's watching after us in a good place and safe place. I wanted to give more details about the meaning and understanding behind, and also why the skull is actually was chosen by us, not something else. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Boris. And Brother Michael, if you're there.
Yes. The Bamileke and the Tikar have very similar spirituality systems as far as the cult of the skull is concerned. The only difference between the Bamileke and the Tikar as far as the cult of the skull is concerned is that with Bamilekes, the skull is removed for for the family members and kept in a skull room. Tikars do the same, but they only do it for the king, the traditional leader. So the average family, their family is buried in usually in the village cemetery, and all of the offerings, like the pouring of corn wine, like corn liquor or palm wine, that is done right on the grave. Or they have sort of like an altar in nature, like by the trees or whatever. But everything is usually done on the person's grave, and it's the responsibility of those who are living to upkeep the grave. Like annually, someone would come and see that the grave may need cementing. Like the cement needs to be re-cemented or refurbished. They'll do that, and that's usually done. That's usually done annually. It's usually I know usually from what I've heard with the Bamileke, someone is assigned to take care of the skull room. Among the Tikars, it could be a respected person among the chiefdom or in the village. It doesn't have to be someone assigned to do it. Usually somebody who's respected in the chiefdom will perform rites, annually. Let's say like at the Tikars have the Sweetie Festival where they honor the ancestors, and that will ensure a good harvest for the following year. Each village will have their own Sweetie Festival or wine festival. The wine being the palm wine or the corn wine, that they pour out, to for the ancestors. Let's see what else. Where do the ancestors exist? The ancestors exist in the spiritual realm, and when you pour out the offerings to them, they're actually partaking of those offerings. So someone mentioned before that you pour out, maybe something that they like, a drink that they like, off of make food offerings of different food items that they enjoyed while they were walking in the physical realm. And the ancestors communicate with you through nature. They also communicate with you through dreams. They may communicate with you in a dream or send you signs through the environment around you in nature. Some people would say, liken that to like a omen, like, oh, I saw this today. This must mean that. And it's, usually they would take it as communication from the ancestors. I've always been told it's very important to pay attention to your dreams, because the ancestors could be communicating with you through a dream. I always heard my mother say, hey, my mother came to me in a dream, or I dreamed that I saw my mother last night. Those different types of things are examples of the ancestors communicating with you from the spiritual realm to the physical realm. Let's see. That's basically about it. Like I said, the Tikars and the Bamilekes both have the cult of the skull, but with the Tikars, the cult of the skull is basically revolves around the traditional leader only, the king only, not for every family member. Whereas the Bamilekes, they remove the skull and put it in the family skull room. In Tikar chiefdoms, the skull room is just is a room where all of the Tikar traditional leaders' skulls are located, not just the average person. Like I said before, Tikars have they have their own cemetery in the village, and you do your offerings, you pour your libations and everything right on the grave of the person that you're making you pouring the offerings to.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Brother Michael. And as we
You're
can go to the third topic, I believe we could start with Sister Candace and then Brother Michael for this topic, since I know that you both have time limits. But this is the last topic that we have for today before we open it up for questions, discussion, comments, and such and so forth. So I do want to thank all of you, because I believe we have 20 people on just for sticking with us for about a little less than an hour now. Hopefully you're enjoying this conversation, and hopefully you have some good questions that you can ask after this topic. But for topic number 3, we just want our panelists to discuss some of the common misconceptions about the traditional African spiritualities, specifically the black magic or the witchcraft, the evil, or spiritual possession, just thoughts on positive and negative spirits. Just if you could give us your experience and your perspective on these misconceptions, and maybe some remedies or solutions, or better yet, how you overcame those misconceptions. Thank you.
I'll start. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think I'm at a place now where I'm interested in the compare and contrast between what I'll call a black Christianity, right? Which is how Black American people may practice Christianity, which is very different from how other people practice Christianity, and African spiritual traditions and African religions, because there is a thread that's in the way in which we practice. And I into other Black Americans about African traditional religions or African spirituality, to find the threads within their experience of Christianity that are from Africa, is a helpful transition. And one of those things is, I hear a lot of people talk about, what they say voodoo, right? Voodoo and spirit possession as something so evil, but I'm like, what do you call it when you're at church and your auntie catches the spirit? That's not a European practice. Like that's our thing, right? The dancing, catching the Holy Ghost, or someone coming to you and saying, oh, God told me, I got a message from you, prophesying. Like, these are our things. This is what we brought into Christianity. And it's just changing the context, right? And I think the one thing that has gotten in the way for me, and I see it with other people, is that religion is a structure, any structure. It could be Islam, Christianity, it doesn't matter. Religion is a structure. And spirituality is a process, like religion is like an end goal, and spirituality is just a process of which is evolving and ever present. And so understanding that the experience of the spirit realm is constant and continuous and open and flows. And in Christianity, like I said, my mom is so very, she's quick to be like, we're going to pray against this and pray against that, right? But she's also the type to wake up at 3 a.m. and say, God told me this, I got up and I went and did this and I prayed here. And she, within even her Christian circles, is very much an anomaly because people don't have a full and present experience of God or communication with spirit in the way that she does. And that ain't nothing but the way in which we understand that spirituality is a part of every bit of life. Like it's how we make coffee. It's how we get up in the morning, right? It's the things that we do as we live our life. And so much of how we live, even, like pouring out some liquor for the homies. That all comes from a continuous practice and experience of ourselves in nature, ourselves with spirit, ourselves with our family spirits. So I think those are the misconceptions, is that people think that, well, if they were gonna switch over, I'm like, it's not a switch over. It's already present. If you need to stay within your religion because that's their tradition, right? And Haitians have a big legacy of that, right? They're Catholic, but they say the island is 100% Vodou because how you interact with the world is where the spirit comes in. And what you do with the traditions is tradition, but what you give to your life and your practice that's African. That's those spirits. That's that relationship. Witchcraft. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know about the witchcraft. I think the word is hard to talk with people about that word because there's so much. That word carries just so much heavy energy. I'm not sure what people think. I tend to think. If you're doing a practice and it's helping to hold you accountable for your actions, right? And you have spirits with you that when you do I was going to say a bad word, I'm sorry. When you do some untoward in the world and you don't have a practice with spirits or creator or God, whatever you call it, that's not like pulling your collar, like, hey, we're not doing that. It's probably not effective and you may not want to do it. And I tend to think that anything that isn't fostering the way in which you treat the way you treat your family, right? I call that witchcraft. Anything that's helping you, that's making you live at odds with your people, your family, your community. I think that's more witchcraft than capitalism. That's witchcraft. Like I don't want to. The rest of it is just people scared about a thing they don't know. And there are legitimate like sides of things, like energy can be used in all kind of ways and spirits can be used in all kind of ways. So that's a really very real and present. And I know people who do practice like, Bokors and other people who do practice with those darker energies. But there's law and there's rule around it. There's process around it. Right. And I'm gonna leave that to them. They, I don't know nothing about it. So I don't be over there in them streets because that ain't they don't call for me. I don't call for them. So that's where I leave that. And if they call for me, then, and so that's the same with, I think, positive and negative spirits. I think, I tend to boil it down even more to, like I said, like, people so worried about like, oh, they talking to the devil and this entity's the devil. But I'm like, but you angry at your family, you haven't forgiven them for that. What kind of spirit is that? What's the spirit of anger, the spirit of resentment, the spirit of bitterness? Those are negative spirits. That the spirit of poverty mindset, right? Like those are negative spirits that I think I don't even entertain certain conversations with people in the world about negative spirits of African spirituality, because I'm like, you have negative spirits that are more likely to ruin your life right here, right now, than worrying about what these people got over here and what they do, and that you ain't got no business over there and they're not calling for you over there anyway. So let's talk about the negative spirits of addiction and the negative, these negative spirits that we very much should be using all of our positive spirits to be intervening on our lives, on our children's lives, and on behalf of our families and communities. So that's my basic thought to it, is sometimes because of religion's impact, we we glorify things on a macro scale and don't bring them down to like the micro scale, which is how is this operating every day in your life, right? In your relationship to nature, to self, to your family, to your children, to your parents. So that's I think a big misconception about African spirituality is it's not, you know, it ain't shaving, having to, you know, it can be, but it doesn't have to be shaving your head and doing so much elaborate things. And now you can't be present with your people in the same way, because you've made a process now, a structured, it's so much of a structured thing that it's causing dissension in the way that Christianity has done with our people too. And now you're using that model to operate in another process, you know? And so that's as I'm continuing to go, that's what I'm recognizing is that people who, and I see it more with people who are like native practitioners of African traditions, it doesn't divide them from people. Like once you're really rooted in a thing, they don't have to talk about it. Like the Vodou practitioners that are from Haiti and practice, like they don't need to talk, you know it because you see how they might pour some out or do a thing, but they don't need to run around talking about it. It's just in the way that they do things, in the way that some of us come from Black Christian lineages where something happens in the family and then you wake up early in the morning because you can hear your grandma in her room with her door closed praying, you know. And so that's my thought about some of the misconceptions that people may have if they come from a strict like religious background.
Thank you for that, Brother Michael.
Yes, with witchcraft, when you look at the word witchcraft, it's the craft of a witch, you know, somebody that's doing some type of like the craft of a practitioner. That's what, you know, but in Western society, we see it as with a negative connotation, like you're doing something harmful to somebody with the craft that you're practicing. You know, anytime that I've gone to see a spiritual reader or anything like that, I've always been told, not that I went there to do anything to anybody, it's usually just to get some insight on my life in the present moment. But I've always heard practitioners say, if you want to do something to somebody, you have to make room for yourself. You know, when you're trying to put make something negative or put negative, generate negative energy to cause somebody some harm, it could come right back and harm you. You know, but spiritual consultation and doing rituals to clear certain things in your life or to influence positive outcomes in your life without harming others, that by a religious person is considered to be witchcraft as well, you know, which, you know, to me, that, you know, witchcraft kind of has like a negative connotation. Doing spiritual work to influence positive outcomes, I don't see that as something negative, like witchcraft has that negative connotation around it. You know, people can be possessed by different spirits. That's, you know, when you go to, let's say, the Catholic Church, and you partake of the bread and wine, you know, you're becoming one with the body and spirit of Christ. You know, in African spirituality, when they partake of, you know, like corn liquor or anything like that, or even in voodoo, you know, where they spit the alcohol, and everything, consume and spit the alcohol and everything like that. That alcohol invokes a spirit, you know. And I've seen the spirit possession in the Pentecostal church, and I haven't seen anything Vodun wise in person, you know, just through film footage and everything like that. But they say that when Uncle so-and-so drinks, you know, he acts a different way. You know, they say that when you partake in alcohol, that they call the alcohol spirits. So basically you take on a spirit, you know, you can get possessed by a spirit, you know, a negative spirit or a positive spirit. Like I was saying with witchcraft, you're practicing a craft to do something on a spiritual realm, whether it's positive or negative. You know, me personally, I just, you know, speaking for myself, I look for the next right thing to do in my life, like spiritual consultation, not to do any harm to anyone else. Because, like I said, I've always been told by spiritual practitioners or people who they say may practice witchcraft that if you want to do something to somebody, you have to make room for yourself. So for me, it's not about doing something negative to somebody. Witchcraft, you know, the craft is not about doing something negative to somebody. It's about influencing positive outcomes in your life. You know, that's one of the misconceptions about African spirituality from the Western standpoint. Any type of practice that you do, whether it's to influence a positive outcome or a negative income, they lump it all together and just call it witchcraft. You know, and you know, not all of it is to influence something, a negative outcome for somebody else. That's the only thing I really have to say on witchcraft and possession or anything like that. You know, it's a craft that you're practicing that people are labeling in a negative, giving it a negative label. It doesn't always necessarily have to involve doing harm to somebody. It's about influence and positive outcomes. That's what I know. Every time I visited what you call a so-called Obia doctor or a Vodun priest, it was all about influencing a positive outcome in your life in the present moment. So that's a misconception about African spirituality. People see it as dark and evil, harmful, when you know, that's not the case from what I know. Some of this stuff might be scary to people, like, you know, like Tikars and Bamilekes have the cult of the skull, and they might do some rituals involving the skull of an ancestor, and from somebody who didn't grow up in the culture, from the outside looking in, may say it's something evil that they're practicing. It's just something that's misunderstood. I think the label witchcraft is misunderstood.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother Michael, for that. Brother Boris, are you still there?
Yes.
Would you like to add to this topic as well?
Yeah, I can say a few words about it. So I think in the Western culture, and I think also, to be honest, in many African societies, witchcraft has a negative meaning. But if I have to use give a definition, I think to me, witchcraft is just the power for a witch to use magic or supernatural powers to act on something, to do something. So this possibility to use supernatural power is what we call witchcraft in our context, I think. In the Bamileke, some thought about it, in the Bamileke context, if you go to Cameroon, there's something that everyone has heard of, it's called Famla. Famla is, I don't know when Famla started, but maybe I will give a quick definition. Some people are considered to do Famla if they when they, or as I said that, a lot of people when they become rich really quickly, people might be suspicious and ask them if they're part of Famla. Famla is an association of people who come together and they use mystical and supernatural forces in order to increase their wealth or to maintain wealth or power or prosperity and longevity. This is a big thing in the Bamileke context. Famla is also used in a negative way. To be honest, I don't know if I've never heard of an actual Famla association. So I don't know if it's something that's actual or if it's only a rumor, but it's something that also, there's something I grew up hearing from. And we have also cases where in the case of the Bamileke case, we have something we'll call like a good death and a bad death. So if someone has a good death, usually that means there's a peaceful interaction between the living world and the spiritual world. And if you have a bad death, or if there are a lot of bad deaths in the family, we might question if there's some witchcraft happening or bad witchcraft happening in the family. You might ask me what is a bad death? A bad death might be someone who died from an accident, a sudden death, someone who's very young and has a promising future and then die, or I don't know, someone who has been ill for too long so that the whole family is blocked because of it. Let's say the resources of the whole family or the attention of the whole family has been used because of this long disease, or it could also be a case where you have a family where many people have some mental illness or infamous physical illness. And those are cases where people will be suspicious of witchcraft. So it's a topic people talk about. So let's imagine you can have even a combo of everything. You have a family where someone gets rich really fast, his wife died of an accident, all his kids have a complicated disease, and many crazy things happen in the family that's very strange, and people might be asking, oh, is that witchcraft or not? And those are things we see, to be honest. I think even we might see that everywhere, but those are things we see, and then they raise questions. And yeah, I'm not, witchcraft to me is something I can't, because I don't practice it on my own, so I don't know a lot about it. I cannot tell you how it is 100%, but I know it's something that is part of our the fear of many people that, oh, you should be careful about what you do, because yeah, if you're not careful, someone might be a target for witchcraft or bad witchcraft and so on. So you mentioned what is my thought on spirit possession. Yeah, I think spirit possession is also can go in the same line with what I said before about having someone who might act strangely, might have a specific type of mental illness that's not understood, or that maybe it's not a mental illness or something else, but someone is uttering crazy things, doing crazy things. It might be, people might be suspicious, and yeah, and some people might have good spirit, bad spirit. This is the thought. So if you, it could be depending on the way you act, to be depending on the way you see what you do, people might see you as a good person, bad person. And there are some people who are healers, spiritual healers, and there are some people who are known to be witch, and people usually might judge them also based on the result. For example, I have a friend. Her parents have problems, and her mom is always telling her that everyone in her dad's family are witches, or she should be really careful about them. If you go there, she shouldn't. If she interact with them, she shouldn't. I don't know. She should be careful about eating anything, about saying hello. When she gets married, she should be careful about inviting them, because whatever can happen. And yeah, stuff like that. So sometimes when there are those problems, we need to come together, and this is where you have also the interaction with the ancestors and the family coming together to say, oh, let's work out together how to can appease it, so that the people having supernatural power can use it in a good way, so that everyone is happy instead of having fear. I personally think there's a truth in it. I just feel like it's not always clear to know what is the boundary between many things. Yeah, so I am always very happy when I see someone who tells me he's into spiritual, traditional healing and so on. I like to talk with them because I usually learn a lot, and I have a relative who told me he did something, who was known to do something like that, and they always have wonderful stories and very impressive stories to tell. So I think there's a truth in it. Just a matter of personal experience, I think, or also need to learn from other people's story. And I think this is lacking. We might not have enough documentation about it, and people just say, oh, it's bad, it's something that we shouldn't talk about. But I think it's actually something we should talk about, and maybe learn about it, and we're all gonna grow from that. I believe there are spirits, and some are not positive and some are negative. Yeah, that's for sure.
I just want to put something out there for people to think about. And I've mentioned it before in another one of our Zoom sessions before. What is the difference between reciting a psalm to produce an outcome and going to a traditional healer or practitioner to produce a certain outcome? Like people, like if you go into court, people say, all right, read Psalm such and such. If you go into court, and this will produce the outcome that you want when you go to court. Or you have some enemies up against you at the job, or perceived enemies up against you at the job. They say, oh yeah, you got some enemies up against you at the job? Read Psalm such and such, and read it 3 times, and then spin around and do this and do that. What is the difference between reading reading Psalms to produce an outcome and praying to produce an outcome? What's the difference between that and going to a traditional practitioner to produce a certain outcome, whether it's in court, whether it's in your relationship, or whether it's perceived enemies against you? What is the difference between doing it, reading Psalms, and doing it the traditional way? To me, to me personally, there's no difference. Does anybody, when they, let's say they may have a court case or something like that. Has anyone ever told you, read Psalm such and such to produce the best outcome? Or if you have perceived enemies up against you at the job trying to make sabotage you on the job, and they tell you, all right, read this Psalm and put that person's name in this part where it says, you know, where it says the enemies in the Psalm, put that person's name in that place. Has anybody ever, are y'all familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
And they
What is
also
the
are the
difference?
23rd Psalm.
What is the difference between that and doing witchcraft?
I think doing witchcraft per se is how to say that. What is important to me is whether you do things on your own or whether you go through an intermediary. Because to me, if you ask me to do psalms or to do something special with the skull or whatever, it's more me talking to the ancestors or doing something. But if I have to go through a third party, this is where things might become a bit blurry, because it might depend on who you end up talking to or what the person is going to tell you. Because in my case, I have a very specific example. I was very young when that happened, but my sister is dead. And one of my uncle recommended my parents to go to a traditional healer. And I don't remember all the details of what my parents had to do. Well, they did everything. They went to the healer, traditional healer, they went to the pastor. And what both said was very tough. Like my mom there, for the traditional healer, said they had to get something from, I don't know what animal. I think maybe a sheep, or they needed to go to get something from the cemetery. It was very complicated. It was a very complicated thing they had to do. And the pastor also said complicated things. They had to do something, or the priest, I don't know, they had to do something with a healing water and then do that and do that and do that. And in both cases, to be honest, it didn't work. And eventually we just learned to live with it. And my mom we're very happy to have her, and we are happy with what she is. But the point is, I think I feel more fulfilled usually when I do things on my own, sort of. So if I have to do something, talk to the ancestor, and I can have a direct conversation, I think it's always very good. It's always better if it's possible. And this is maybe not this is what I see as different in your case, what you said. And this is something I usually think is more fulfilling to me, to do things on my own with limited intermediary.
So hold that thought, Brother Boris. Thank you for sharing that. But hold that thought, because I want to move on to the next segment while we still have everyone connected online. First, I want to say thank you to our sister Candace, our brother Michael, our brother Boris, and my brother Munkam for all of the insight that you shared, just for sharing with us your perspective on these different topics, and just being open to us to let us know your thought process. So thank you for that. It's been a great conversation so far. And since we still have 22 people, I know that everyone is still engaged into this conversation. So I want to allow everyone else the opportunity at this point now to ask the panelists questions, give your thoughts, your comments, and let's just have a healthy discussion or conversation. So the floor is open. Ask away. Thank you. And let's see, I see we have a couple of things in the comments. People loved it. Well, while we're waiting for someone else to ask a question, I just want to throw this out there because no one mentioned it. The concept of heaven and hell. What is that? What is your perspectives on those, and specifically regarding the traditional spirituality, heaven and hell? Is it the same as is taught with the, Abrahamic religions, or is it a different concept? If anyone would like to share on that.
That's a very good question.
Did you say the concept of heaven and hell?
Heaven and hell, yes. Yes, sir.
I believe though heaven and hell is a state of mind, it's a state of mind on how you perceive your physical life in the present moment, whether it's through enjoyment or suffering. When you're in the state of peace and enjoyment and everything, you're in a more of a heavenly state. When you're going through trials and tribulation and everything like that, you're going through the fire. You're going through a state of perceived hell. It's a perception. It's a state of mind. That's my outlook on it.
Just to piggyback off of Michael, hi, I'm Aisha. I am, like Candace, a voodooista. I have practiced Haitian voodoo for 23 years. I grew up surrounded around African-based religion, whether it was Ocha or the Akan religion of Ghana or Ifa or voodoo. I was introduced to it probably at the age of 5. So I'm close to 50 now. So you can do the math on that. But just to piggyback off of what he said in the voodoo, heaven and hell doesn't exist. To my understanding, those are Christian constructs. And so once the spirit passes on, it passes on. And in the voodoo, what we believe, and I wanted to say this earlier because I was amazed at so many similarities between the things that we do for those who passed on in the voodoo and what's done in Tikar, amongst the Tikar people. I too am Tikar and Hausa by lineage. In the voodoo, it is lineage driven. The voodoo in Haiti is lineage driven, wherein you have the family that you are initiated into, that's your spiritual family. And for those of us who have it in our bloodline, it reconnects us to our family spirit. Now, going back to the funeral rites in the voodoo, we have which is called a boam, and that's when you're sending the spirit underwater. And so that involves drums and it involves singing, and it's somber to an extent. It is somber to an extent. The spirit is sent underwater, and then a year and a day, it's raised back. And then there's some other things involved in it that I can't really go into, but that's how we usher our spirits on into the other world. With regards to the skulls, and I'm sure some of this is how another way that voodoo has the perception in the Western world that it does is there's something similar that we do. It's not done for everyone. It's done for the Mambos and Hungans who took care of the Laku. The Laku is like the family yard. And so for every family, there's a Mambo or Hungan which is a Mambo is a priestess, a Hungan is a male priest that takes care of the entire family. When that person dies, those rites and all of that is done for them. In similar fashion, at some point, their skull is used in a very similar way. On the Laku, in the yard, there's also a cemetery. And in the cemetery, it is all of the family members who have passed on. So it's aunts, it's uncles, it's grandparents. But again, there's something different that's done for the priest who led the family for whatever the duration, the priest who led the family. So to hear about the Tikar practices, knowing that I'm Tikar, it was yet affirming, through my journey into spirituality, because introduced as a young person, I'm there, and I'm there with my mom, and I'm there with my family, and I get it, but I don't get it. So as I came into my own when I got older, I began to connect for myself. And throughout my journey, I've gotten a lot of bits and pieces about who we are and my connection to not only the voodoo, but my connection to African spirituality. So, you know, hearing about the Tikar people and their practices, about our people and their practices, it's something else that's yet affirming, you know, as it relates to my personal journey. And I'm sorry, I was just so filled. I kind of forgot where I was going with this. so filled by so many of the things that you all shared. But you know, to piggyback off of what Michael said, it is a consciousness. You know, we have spirits that pass on, we have some that stay here, and their reality becomes what they've created for themselves. And so, you know, I do agree with him on that. And so I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Well, so brother Justin, if I need to add something about heaven and hell, I don't think that there's heaven and hell in the Bamileke spirituality, because that's why we have to go through 2 different funerals. So the first funeral, like brother Justin said, is a normal funeral, and the second one, 7 years or 10 years after that, is a funeral to elevate the dead person in the rank of ancestor. And then before they actually validate that, there's so many practices they have to go through, and then they have to beat the drum to validate. So now, if we getting guidance from our ancestor, they're not going to be in hell, because in the Bamileke, like in the Bamileke village, if you somebody on your living, you was disturbing other people, you was using your power, because the power we got as a Bamileke, you can use it on both ways. You can use it to either disturb people or to save people. So if somebody was using your power to disturb, then they're completely going to throw you out of the village, and then meaning that you're not going to be raised to the rank of ancestor. And then, yes, when you raise on the rank of ancestor, we take guidance from you. We're going to come there on front of your skull. We're going to pour the libation. We're going to speak about everything we want. So you wouldn't be in hell to be able to get that guidance. And then if you're not raised on the rank of ancestor, they stop giving your name to your newest generation. So your name is not going to carry on. If like me, I'm Monkam, if I did anything. So in that village, nobody can have a name Monkam anymore. So it's going to stop from there. So this is it.
Yeah, maybe I can also add some thought to that. So I think we if you look at the word heaven, heaven in many cultures just means the highest place, because we just see, as humans, we see life always like you have different grades. You are a baby, eventually you are a young man, and you get old, and you always have a ranking, and you have something that's low, something in the middle, something high. And the concept of heaven is usually the highest place, the place where the good actions are rewarded. So if you have been good in your life, this is where you're going to be. And hell is like the lowest place, the underworld, the low. So for me, I see it first as an image, a very powerful image. And I see that also in the Bamileke culture, it's maybe not called heaven or hell, but Brother Monkam gave a good explanation to it. When you had a good life, you were a good man, nice to everyone. Let's say you I don't know, you serve everyone, you help everyone, and then you die. And when we do your first funeral, the second funeral, the goal of the second funeral is to make sure to tell everyone, okay, you are now part of the ancestors. And to me, you can call it heaven. That means you got the highest place. You were here, and then you're now in the highest place with T and the other ancestors. It's just not called the same, but it's very similar to what you will hear in other, I don't know, if you look at the Christian faith, it would be you have let's say, churchman, and because you did, I don't know, you believe in Jesus, or I don't know, maybe in Islam it would be you did more good than bad, and usually because you did something good, you go to paradise or heaven, and if you did something bad, you don't go there, or you go down. And I think in our Bamileke culture, and I see that, I guess, in many other African cultures, it's more, this is what I would say, it's those, the closest to heaven when you get to be called an ancestor. And we honor that with the fact that we give your name to other people, your story is told. To be honest, people talk about you. So there are many things being made so that you remember that you were there. And that's why some chiefs, even now we know in the Baham tribe, we know about the good chiefs that were there a long time ago. And their names are given again and again because we believe that if you give the name, then he has maybe the person will have the spirit. It's not called reincarnation per se, but it's like you will get a bit of this person that died before. And we don't have per se something clear about what happened when you were bad, and we don't say that you go to a specific place. We just said you don't go to that highest place. So I think maybe in our case, hell is not really hellish in a sense. Just don't manage to be in the good place. We're just somewhere else. Yes, and usually in our case, we have even, in the Bamileke case, we have even ways to kind of correct what you did before. So if you in your lives, you were a very mean person, you killed someone from another family and then you died, what you did will still affect your family because, I don't know, maybe your spirit is not at peace. And there are ways to bring peace to the family in a sense, in that you go with the family member. My family member maybe was affected by what you did. So we can talk because we have your heritage, they have your heritage, because they don't want to have a bad heritage, sort of. We can try to correct it on our own so that things are also fixed in the spiritual world. So I see that in a way to say, okay, you did bad things, the spirit is not at peace. Maybe you are in something we will call hell, but we don't call it hell per se in the Bamileke belief. But you're in a place that's trouble, and it's so trouble that even your kids or the generation that come after you, they're feeling the effect. And we have families where we see in this family nothing is working. They always have problems. People are always dying. They're always suffering. Something is happening, and you see in the line that one of the great grandfather was such a bad person. He was a killer. He was a chief. He did so many bad things, and then your grandchildren will say, okay, let's come together and try to fix it. What did he do? And then we go to each family. We say, oh, we are so sorry for what our great-great-grandfather did. We apologize for that. And then we have peace here. And in a sense, we kind of help to bring peace to your spirit in heaven. And in a sense, we help you not to be in the underworld. Maybe you help you to be in a better place. So to me, this is what I see as an equivalent. It's not called per se hell, heaven, but to me, it seems to be the equivalent.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
To Brother Morris and Moncom. When you go into the place and you're praying or asking intercession or asking for answers to the ancestors, is the concept that the ancestors will help answer that question, or are the ancestors an intercessor to the Creator to find the answer? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, if I have to answer that, like I said at the start, God in the Bamileke is called Seer. The ancestor now is the person at the middle between us, living, and God.
Right.
So now when we speak to the ancestor, like we speak just like you speak to your own dad or your own mom. So they're gonna take that query, they're gonna deliver to God, to the Creator. And then now that's how it's going to be answered. So there's a link. You know, our spirituality doesn't stop us going to the church, doesn't to the mosque, to anywhere you want to go. So the ancestor is there to take our message, give it to God, and then give the answer.
So it is an intermediary
exactly
to the Creator God.
Yeah.
To the Creator
Yeah.
God. Exactly.
Which is similar in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, right.
Of praying through the saints to God.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a similarity in what is happening there,
exactly.
which is similar to what Sister Candace was saying.
Mm-hmm.
in Protestant churches, especially Black Protestant churches.
Exactly.
Where we believe that our parents, specifically our grandmothers and others, can pray with us as intercession to God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in Christianity, of course, because of the crucifixion and rising of Jesus Christ, we now have an intimate, direct relationship to God. So we can speak to God directly,
mm-hmm.
but we also can ask for intercession where others pray with us but we're all speaking to the Spirit of God.
Exactly.
Just to clarify, there is similarity, very much similarity in what we're doing here.
I mean, that's why our ancestors are healers, our guides and protector. You're not gonna go to the ancestor and tell them that you want to have a lot of money. It's not gonna work. You're not gonna go there and say that you're going there because you want to kill someone. It's not gonna work. So again, the power we got, like I said, the power got two different ways. And then again, like Brother Michael said, anyone who use the power to do any bad thing, there's always a karma coming back to that. Anyone who use the power to get money. And then that's why in a lot of African countries today, we got an issue called magic, what's the name again? There's a lot of young children who are using a power to get money, where they got like a magic purse, which actually provide them money. And then at the end, they end up having a lot of money at one period of time. But the repercussion can be that they can lose their man, they can start working in the street without taking their clothes off, they can lose a family member and stuff like that. They got somebody, some spirit working for them, and they have to do to them, that people as well, to protect whatever wealth they want, and then to actually keep themselves going. There's always, you're not gonna go to open the door asking to a spirit to do you a favor, and then you're not gonna pay for that. There's always thing you gotta pay for that. And then you don't need to do that with our ancestor. You go in there because obviously you got everything, you got all the degree, you can't get a job, you got pain in your foot, you went to the hospital, you cannot find any solution to that. Maybe your wife cannot conceive, or the lady cannot conceive. She did all the tests, went through everything, nothing's happening. Then you go to the ancestor, you speak to them just like you speak to your dad. I've tried this, I've tried that, it's not happening. Can you tell me if there's anything there? And then they're gonna work on that. Again, like Brother Boris said, some family can have a karma of what the ancestor was doing. So if it's that the case, you're gonna have a guidance to go and speak to each family your ancestor heard, and then that's how now everything gonna be fine, and then you're gonna be able to, that door gonna be open for you.
Yeah.
Does that answer?
So
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrisanne. I just wanted to just, share some things that I know. It's a bit different, but I would like to know if maybe in Africa where you come from, you have similar ideas. So in Jamaica, I know that, for example, when a person dies, no, not everybody does this, but a person like a bad man or just bad, they usually advise you to put pins in their foot, in the bottom of their feet, right? So that when their spirit rises or whatever, they can't walk around because it will be too difficult if pins are in the bottom of their feet. So I don't know if you have like we call it superstitions, but it's still something that lots of people still practice. And like for example, they will tell you something blue, something and everything means something else. So anybody, or that's just a Jamaican thing? Because I think
in the
it comes
Bamileke
from,
context,
or African.
I've never heard of it.
Well, I've heard of it because my family's Jamaican, so I've heard of it. But even Jamaicans are big on the power of the Psalms. They like to use Psalms in the same way that you would use people would use to do spiritual work, for protection, for blessings, and things of that nature. And like let's say, some people don't like to say they're going to see the Obia man or whatever. But if you go into a spiritual reader who's telling you to do spiritual baths, like with the Florida water and the blue and all this other type of stuff, or going in the ocean and taking a bath, I know all of that has been done with my Jamaican mother. What he talk about, you have to take a spiritual bath to wash off the crosses, and they buy things, they go down to the Botanica store, they buy things like the blue, the Florida water, and all this other stuff, a candle, they have, a candle or whatever. All throughout the Caribbean, they do the same thing. But it's more done in secret than out in the open. Out in the open, they say, oh, I'm a praying woman. I don't do that. I go pray to God. Don't ask me nothing about that. But then, secretly, they do some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they have an enemy, they'll have put the enemy's name in the Psalms, where they have each part of the Psalms where it has the enemy coming up against them. You insert that person's name when you say in the Psalms. To me, it's no different than working any type of magic to do something in your favor. Or if you have an enemy on the job or whatever, and they tell you, write that person's name on a piece of parchment paper. You know what I'm saying? Say this particular prayer or Psalms a certain amount of times or certain times of the day, and put that parchment paper in your shoe and walk on your enemy all day.
Yeah.
It's to me there's no difference between
But
that.
to me, that is what they call obia.
Yeah, obia.
That's what they call obia. So some people don't like to be associated with obia.
Yeah, they don't want to be associated with it, but if you attach Psalms to it, it's okay. If you say, all right, say this Psalms, and then write that person's name on this parchment paper or whatever, and put it under a such and such color candle, you know what I'm saying, and say this prayer or Psalms, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's okay.
And Michael, do you know about this? Like when you're building a house, they kill chicken and sprinkle the blood.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen it. I haven't had anything done in America. I've had someone come out to the house with like a dove or a pigeon, and they kind of, go around the house with the dove or the pigeon, what with the dove flapping its wings all around, out around the house. So they kind of do that to remove whatever crosses are there. And then they release the bird, so the bird will fly away with whatever crosses that was there. I've seen that done.
Yes, Michael, can you explain to everybody what is crosses, because they might not understand?
Crosses is like bad luck, like cross, like like if somebody puts any type of bad luck or bad spirit on you or anything like that, that's causing you misfortune. That's like crosses.
Yeah.
And then my mother's Jamaican. Like I said, my parents are Jamaican. My mother has taken me to, or telling me, I may need a spiritual bath, and then you have to get certain items that you take the bath with that's supposed to remove the crosses.
Yeah.
Or even you go to the beach, into the ocean, and you say certain things or whatever, do whatever rituals, and you wash away the crosses at the beach. But sometimes the Obeah man will tell you it has to be at the beach. And then you'd be like, oh man, I got to go down to the beach and people are going to see me down there. But that's, one of the things that they do, where you have to take a spiritual bath in the ocean. It has to be the ocean and the beach to wash away the crosses or whatever. And then you living in like Miami or New York or whatever, and you're like, what, they asking me to do something that's, kind of embarrassing. People might be, wondering what I'm doing, But, in New York, though, not only Jamaicans, you have Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and or Latinos and all sorts of people from the Caribbean. They do stuff like that, And I've been to Vodun priests in New York too. The highest Vodun priest in New York, if you look him up online, his name is Max. I've been to him. My mother took me to him, and it wasn't to do anything negative to anybody. It was just for like a spiritual consultation, what they feel needs to be, what I need to do in my life at the moment. Or they give you some insight like, oh, I see you going to college, or I see you doing this, or I see you doing that, not to do no harm to nobody. I've never engaged in anything where it was like, all right, do this to this person or do this to that person. Usually when I want to produce a good outcome, I pray for guidance and prosperity. I pray for doors to be opened and stuff like that. And usually people doing benevolent rituals will do rituals pertaining to that, to produce, to have doors open for them. Opportunities present themselves to them. Not to say, give me money, because sometimes the answer is no. You're not going to always have the outcome that you're seeking, because sometimes the outcome that you get is what's best for you at the time. And that's what's important to understand when you're doing spiritual work. You're doing it for the best outcome. You may want a specific outcome, but really you're going to get the best outcome, because sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes the blessing might not be in the form that we think it's supposed to be in. You might be praying to bless you with a specific mate, a specific person, and you're like, I want this person, but they're with somebody else. I want this person, but it'll turn out in a way where it's like you're blessed with somebody better for you than that person.
Can I ask another question? Different subject, but same. Does anybody know when the Bamileke and Tikar came down out of Egypt, about what time that might have been? Down through Sudan and then over.
Well, I've heard an account from Tikars that the first Tikar kingdom was established about 800 years ago. So the
800?
migration, 800 years ago.
Okay.
You know, but the migration probably had to be in my thinking, the migration had to be in motion, prior to 800 years ago. If they arrived in the Adamawa region of Cameroon 800 years ago and established the first Tikar kingdom.
So at least 1,000, I'm just going to throw a number, 1,000 years ago, they started the migration.
800 to 1,000 years ago. And and when they're telling the story, they say the Tikars migrated. If the Tikars didn't form until the Boom, who live in the Adamawa region, until the Boom and the Tumu people came and mixed with each other. And there's other groups that mixed with them as well. If they did not exist until that point, then it wasn't the Tikars that migrated out of Egypt or Sudan or prior to that Yemen. There had to be some other people. And that has never been clear who those people were. Because some people are saying Egypt, some people are saying Sudan, some people just saying the Nile Valley. I prefer to say the Nile Valley.
Right.
Because Egypt and Sudan were all part of the Nile Valley.
Correct. And that's kind of where I was thinking about, and I'm trying to get a perspective of timing. So when you say about 1,000 years ago, are you putting that 1,000, like if this is 2022, are you suggesting it's 1,022, 222?
All I could go off is what I've been told, which was 800 years ago, from the first Tikar kingdom was established, that they say was Kimi, or what they say is Ben Kim today.
Right.
Yeah.
So the skulls, was that a tradition of the people coming from the Nile Valley? Do you know?
From what I've been reading, I've been trying to find that out. But from what I've been reading, they practiced mummification in the Nile Valley in ancient Kemet. They practiced mummification.
Right.
And I believe that the cult of the skulls evolved from that. It's like they couldn't take the whole body, but they had they took something that was as close to it as possible, which was the skull, which is the seat of your, which houses the seat of your thoughts,
Okay, that makes sense.
I've read some things online, like when practicing spirituality here in the diaspora, that if you can't get your ancestors' skull, that you just get you hold on to one of their possessions, like it might be a necklace that they used to like to wear all the time, or a shirt or anything that they own, you hold on to that and you utilize that in your ancestral veneration like you would do the skull, because here living in America or living in Europe, it's difficult to practice a lot of our ancestors' practices, like burying your loved one in your family compound or in your house, because you have a lot of West African cultures that bury their ancestors in the home, or on the family compound. If you're living in the United States or England or France or whatever, you can't bury your loved one in your backyard. You can't do that. In Jamaica, my grandfather is buried on my family land, and I know where my grandfather's tomb is. On the land back over there in St. Anne, Jamaica. That's still done, but I believe most people are being buried in cemeteries now. Before you buried them on your family land, and in Cameroon, you buried either in the chiefdom's cemetery or in the house or in the family compound. But that you can't do that in America or in Europe. You can't just bury your mother in the house. You'd be arrested. They be looking at you like, what's that movie with Norman Bates where he had his mother's body in the house or something?
Thank you for that, Brother Michael. And I see we have a comment from Nday has joined us. So thank you for logging in, Nday. If you could, if you're able, could you just give us a little of the background? Because you mentioned that the departure from the Nile Valley is said to be in the 10th century. If you could you just share a little of your insight on that as well, please, Nday?
Hello, does everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, great. I'm just sorry, I'm just joining the conversation now. So I usually like to listen quite a bit before I can say anything. That's why I decided to chip in by the side, So yes, lots of writings and archaeological, information show that the departure was from the Nile Valley was around the 10th century. That's a century later than the Bassas in Cameroon are said to have emigrated. And I was just also mentioning to confirm with the current speaker that there's been a lot of mixture as they came down. It was not a straight shot. It was not a straight shot. There's been a lot of mixture with people, the local populations that they get into contact with, until where they finally settled, or at least the part that settled in that area that we call, the Adamawa of, region in Cameroon. So there's been a lot of mixture of the people, local people, as well as the people they met, other ethnic groups they met along the way. That's just what I wanted to chip in, and that is also consistent with what you were saying before. When the current speaker, I'm sorry, I just got in. I didn't. I see the name of the speaker was iPhone. So I don't know, but at least the speaker talked about 800 years, which is kind of consistent with that, with the dates of departures. It was never a straight from the Nile to Cameroon.
Yeah, yes, that's true. That's the version of the story I've heard. And they couldn't have been called the Tikar when they were living in the Nile Valley, or prior to that, I've heard the Yemen. They couldn't have been called the Tikar then, because they weren't called Tikar until that incident with the boom, where they said Tikalaje, to be out of here. That's where where that person was cast out of the chiefdom. You know, whether it was Wotan or whether it was the prince that slept with the Balaka's wife. You know, because there are multiple versions of that story where they say it was Wotan that was cast out because she wanted to enter this house. And then there's another version where it says that the prince of the Balaka of the Boom, they were cast out because he slept with the Balaka's wife, you know. And I was always told that it wasn't, you know, the simplified story is the Tumu and the Boom mixed together to form the Tikar people. But I was also told that it was multiple ethnic groups in the area, in not just the Adamawa area of Cameroon, just around in that area of Cameroon, you know, that they call the Grassfields and all those areas. A lot of those groups mixed together, you know, to form the Tikar people and the Bamileke people, you know, because they most tell stories basically the same origins. You know, when I spoke to Fo Sokuju and I asked him if it was true that the Bamilekes and the Tikars were related, you know, he told a story. He always talks for a long time when he talks, and he said that he talked about the migration to the Tikar plain. You know, that they migrated to the Tikar plain. There was a lot of mixture from that migration from the Nile Valley to the Boom, the Adamawa region, to the Tikar plain. There were people living in the Tikar plain before when the Boom got there. There were people living there already. You know, and they were the Tumu. I forgot the some of the other names, but I have some of the other names saved in the document of other people that lived in the area that mixed in to form the Tikar people as well. So, and then the language that they spoke was the Tumu language, you know, which the modern Tikars that live around the Bam and the Mape River still speak today, different dialects of that same language. And then you have the descendants of those of those Tikars that sought better land, better hunting grounds, better agricultural grounds, you know, and they established kingdoms in other places and subdued kings and became became you know, the chiefs of the kingdoms, like the Bamun, the Bafia, and all those different places. You know, you even have places like Bafut and all those places in the Northwest was so-called started by Tikar princes and warriors from Ban Kim and some of the earlier Tikar kingdoms. You know, none of those, a lot of those people, Tikar groups in the Northwest and in the West and everything, they speak different languages and practice different cultures from, you know, the ones that migrated around the Mape River from the people, you know. So A lot of them still call themselves Tikar today, like people from Babungo, people from Bafut, you know, Calm, So, and all those places. They all have ancestry in the original group that was formed out of the Boom people from the Tikars. They and a lot of them still call themselves Tikar, and some call themselves Grassfields people. You know, so it kind of gets complicated because when you talk to certain Tikars that live around the Mape River and the Bam River, you know, it's kind of in a way they kind of try to say that those other groups that say they are Tikar, that they're not Tikar, you know, because they don't speak the Tumu language, you know, or practice the same government system in their chiefdoms as Bankim and Gambe Tikar and all those groups, you know. But at the same time, out of convenience, they'll say that they're Tikar also, like, you know, like Bafut. You know, if you're talking about the glory of Bafut or the glory of Soul, whatever, then you hear, well, you know, they came out of Bankim, or, you know, but then at other times you hear some of them say, oh, they're not real Tikars, you know. But from the history, it's obvious that we are family and we all share a lot of ancestral origins. We might have some different admixtures, even when you go amongst the different chiefdoms in among the Tikars, like you have Bankim and Gambe Tikar, you know, they speak different dialect of the Tumu language. And when you look at the appearance of the kings of, like, let's say Mata and all those places over there near Bankim and Magba and all those places, you could see the facial features of the king and a lot of the people in their chiefdom. You could see a lot of similarities in the facial features, you know. But then you hear that king descends from a brother of the person who founded the kingdom of Bankim. So there's a closer connection. And I've taken DNA tests to Cameroon and have tested people from different Tikar chiefdoms like Magba and Mata and all of that. And they are cousins. They do come up as cousins. They even do come up as cousins with people that are Bamun, you know, but you can see that the facial features of those different chiefdoms, they're kind of similar. You know, if anybody's in that African ancestry Cameroonian group, if you look at, you know, the facial features of some of those kings of, let's say, like Nietzsche, you look at the kingdom of Nietzsche that they call Monte the Great. The king of Nietzsche and all those people in Nietzsche got similar facial features, and you know that they're related. But the king of Nietzsche and the king of Bankim are cousins. The founder of Nietzsche was a brother of the founder of the king of Bankim. So, you know, you can see how those different chiefdoms, how they evolved when they got started and how they began to look different and start to have, you know, different cultures. It kind of evolved I would say kind of quickly in Cameroon. For everybody coming out of the same few chiefdoms and to look different and to start practicing different cultures and evolve into different languages and dialects and everything so quickly. I don't know. That's just my thought on it, you know. And I know Ende has shared in the past that Bamilekes and Tikars are the same people. You yes, they are the same foundationally, but there's been a lot of mixture and migration and different things going on, which caused a lot of changes to make apparent differences today, differences that we see today, you know, in language, culture, and everything. But we know from the history that we all share, you know, they all share common ancestors, a lot of common ancestors.
I got a question. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. My question is, I've listened to everybody talk, and I just wondered from the panel, no one has spoke anything about whether there comes a point in time if they're burying a body, if there is a point where they may do a cremation type situation. I just wondered about that. If there's something that, and if it is it just certain situations that it's done in, if it's done that way or not? And then I got a question for Brother Malcolm. When he was talking about where when they do a funeral and after the funeral is done, and let's just say they're not satisfied, and maybe it was a debt, I think he said, that might have need to been paid but wasn't paid, and they weren't satisfied. When does it ever get to the point that it is satisfied, and how do they handle it?
Thank you. That's actually a great question, brother Jerry. So yeah, to answer your first question, it's about cremation, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the Bamileke or Chika, we don't actually they don't actually do that. So they have to bury the full body, because that's how, if they cremate your body, they won't be able to remove your skull. So it's out of the question. I mean, it does happen to certain Bamileke who doesn't follow. Again, it's not all the Bamileke family who decide to take that practice. There's some Bamileke family who doesn't do that. So on that case, they can do that. But any Bamileke who actually who's dead in Cameroon, they're not going to cremate their body. Doesn't matter if he does follow the skull or no, or they're not going to bury him in the public cemetery. They're going to bury in the family on the backyard. And the second question now, when they actually proceed to the second funeral, where they have to raise the person to the rank of ancestor, before there's a special drum. To be honest, I never actually knew about that until when I went to my dad's funeral. And then at one point at the night, there was an argument, and I was like, what's going on? So I was told by my mom that, okay, my dad's father's side of family, they want him to build a house in the village, because my dad left the village where he was quite young, because he came from a family where there was a fairy wife. And then I think when he lost his mom, and then he wasn't really nice. So his family from his dad's side, from mother's side, came and took him. So he grew up with his mother's side of family, and then he's never returned on that side. And then they said that he needs to build a house in the village before we can actually proceed to the funeral. So they have to stop everything. And then we had two options. It's either to negotiate and then be able to pay whatever they're asking, or we're gonna have to cancel the funeral, and then we have to start the process again, negotiate with them until that they're okay, then we can call back the funeral. So we negotiate with them, how to speak with them and chat with them. Everything was okay. So they give us the price, and then we put the deposit, and we, after the funeral, we went and finished what we were supposed to be finishing. So they beat that drum. And then the minute they do that, he was raised on the rank of ancestor. So until negotiation is actually agreed with whoever think that there's a problem, and you're not going to proceed with the funeral. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's
Thank you. Yes, it did.
Thank you.
Brother Manka, let me ask you, what do they do for the 7 months or 10 months?
10 months. I didn't quite get the question.
You said, okay, so you said they passed away, and then they wait about 7 months, and then they have another funeral. What do they do with the body between the two time periods?
I believe it's not 7 months. It's between I think between 5, 7 to even 10 years. Depend how how prepared the family is. So I think it's minimum about 3, 4, 5 years before, because it gives time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The body to detach, to the skull to detach from the body, because when they come in there, they're gonna remove only the skull. They got 2 sides of the skull they have to remove, and the jaw is very important. So if they remove the skull and then the jaw side of the skull is not there, it's a massive problem. They have to find that part. So the meaning of not being there is that the person is not happy about something, and then we have to keep looking for that. If we cannot find it, yes, it's not a problem. We can get some tragic practitioner to go through certain ritual to be able to kind of like resolve that issue, because it's about noticing that, okay, this is not there. What is the next step? Looking for that. If you cannot find it, then you need to resolve the issue. And then the tragic practitioner is going to be able to tell you exactly what the issue is, what the person is angry about, and then when that is resolved, and then you can go ahead and proceed with everything else. So it's the time is to let the body to detach with the skull.
Deteriorate. No. So they dig it back up, and then after it deteriorates, and then go through the procedure.
Exactly. I mean, the majority of family, what they're gonna do, they're gonna put the body straight inside. They're not gonna put the how do you call it? They're not gonna cover the body with I forgot. So they're gonna put the body and cover with the stone, and then they're gonna come back after that. They're just gonna be able to open it and then get down and then remove the body again, and then just remove the head. Some family dig it and then put everything, close everything, but to make it more easy, you just put the coffin down, you make it nice, looking nice, like a small house. You make it nice, put the body there. You got like the top of that, you got like concrete, you close it with the concrete, and then you can pull the concrete back again and then get down, remove the head, and then close it back. And then if you want to, you can then close it completely with anything else.
Interesting.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else? Any question? Or Brother, they want to add anything to what I just said?
No, not really.
Okay. And something very important in the Bamileke and the Tikar house, you're always going to find this. Brother, you know much about that, and then a lot of you guys know about it as well. It's they call it dindam. So it's like something to protect us. If you're somewhere and then you're not feeling comfortable, you just remove I think 7, or some people do 9, and then you just eat. You don't swallow that, just rub it, and then you can say whatever thing you're not feeling comfortable about, and then that helps you. And I've used it 2 weeks ago. I had a job interview, so the last thing I thought was I need to put that on my suit jacket. So I went there. I went through free video interview, and then a 2 phone interview, and then they called me back. They said that you need to have another video interview on site, because I was having it on the Zoom, and they called me on that, and I went over there for an interview. But trust me, it wasn't an interview. They just told me that, you know what, that's where you're going to be working. That's your team. Are you happy with the job? I had it in my pocket. So it's always good. You're gonna find a lot of Bamileke, Tikar with this thing. They call it Dindin.
When when we were in Atlanta about a year ago with Justin, we were given one. And so I keep it, especially in my traveling case, so I can be comfortable. But that was a highlight.
Yeah, definitely.
That's it's about a year ago. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and then
Are we gonna have another one, Justin?
You know, Brother Monte actually went to Cameroon a few months ago, and I got him to bring me some back. So I have quite a few now. He brought me some back. Yeah.
What happened to yours?
I had to get one for I had to get one for my boys. I had to get one for my two sons. So they both each got a few. I have a few. And yeah, I have a lot.
Brother Bill, don't tell me that you ate the whole thing, because I had that for about 3 years.
That's good.
Don't tell me that you ate the whole thing.
Did you get the job?
Pardon?
Did you get the job yet?
I didn't get it.
Okay.
So it didn't work?
No, sir.
Oh no, sorry, I got the job, yeah, because that's, I mean, I went for a last interview, but it wasn't an interview, it was a job offer.
Oh.
Yeah, they told me that they want to see me. They want to see me just, for another interview. They need to assess me again. So I went there thinking I was having an interview. I mean, the whole night I was sitting there preparing, doing everything, everything, all the technical aspect of the job. I was working on it. But when I went over there, the guy just sat me and he started telling me about the role, about
wow.
all the advantage and everything. Then he took me to the
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, right. See, Justin, it worked.
Yeah. So instead of having an interview, I wasn't asked any question at all. I was just, that's where you're going to be working. That's your colleague. And then, do you like the job? And I was like, yes, why not?
Why not?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to let it back to Brother Justin.
All right, so is it closing time? No, even though we hate to close, we could stay on here forever. But is it closing time?
Yeah,
just about it. I haven't picked on Avante today. She spoke to me, and that's it. I'm not gonna let you slide. I'm kidding. I just want to see you smile.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That makes it. I don't know why I chose to pick at you, but I just do. Don't be personal, please.
Okay.
That was an evil spirit.
Everyone, prayers and everything. Appreciate it.
Definitely, that was a good meeting. And again, to conclude it as spirituality, it doesn't stop anyone to practice any religion. So the Chika Bamileke spirituality is not religion. So I was raised as a Roman Catholic. I was an altar boy when I used to be young, and I was going to church every Sunday, every Thursday, every Wednesday. But the first thing I used to notice when anything was going wrong, my mom would travel past all the church and then she's going to go straight to the village before she came back and see, okay, where's the hospital? So there's certain thing that as a Bamileke, as a Chika, that it's not right. There's certain thing that will happen, that this is not the hospital, this is nothing else. You got to go back to your ancestor to find a solution. There's certain thing, and that doesn't mean that we don't practice religion. We do. Even some of the Chika and Bamileke priests, before they became priests, they was following the African spirituality, and then when they became priests, after their service, they always go back home, and then they will be following the African spirituality.
I'll say this too. This has been outstanding. But as I look at the connection of Africa here, the same thing is happening in the diaspora. I mean, we can go to doctors, but there's always that, which my mother would say, let me give you a little bit of this castor oil. Let me tell you, that'll knock that thing out, quicker than anything. My daddy used to have whiskey and rock candy. It just fermented, yeah. And he said, just give the boy a little bit of this, he'll be good to go. So it's the same kind of thing.
But look, you guys,
yeah. And
Brother Lewis, I'm 81 years old, so I had lots of experience. My great grandmother was born around 1867. I lived with her until I was 19 years old. And we never went to a doctor. She was the doctor. I mean, she came over with the salves and the rubs and the castor oil and the rock candy and whiskey and whatever. But she cured everybody. Nobody ever went to the emergency room or anything else. It was only after she passed and other folks stopped doing those things, thought they were dangerous, although nobody ever died. Exactly. But I heard you. But this has been a pleasure. I've been in and out. Started my first week of cancer radiation last week and continue this week. But I'm feeling okay. But yeah, it was really interesting. It was a learning process for me. I will just share a little bit real quickly because I know we got to go, and I've been sitting here just soaking it all in. I'm not a Christian. I don't call myself a Christian, but I call myself a spiritual person. And one time when we're on, I'll tell you about some of the spiritual experiences I had before my trip to Ghana and Togo, and about what happened to me when I came after. It was all in a private setting in my basement when certain things happened. I talked about that when I went to Africa in the village with some of the elders. If you can imagine that, me talking to elders. But there were some folks older than me there. And some things happened when I came back that I had to call and ask about. But enjoy today. It was a real learning process. I know I didn't say anything, but I was here on my phone consulting, doing a lot of consulting, just looking up stuff and acquainting myself with some of the stuff that was being discussed. It was really a learning process, and I know everybody enjoyed. Mike, you really brought a lot of stuff home. It's good to see a young brother like you invest and reading so much culture. So thank you. It was a good day. Appreciate it.
Wish you well with your treatments as well.
Yeah, I go back next week. They're giving me 5 large doses every other day. I had a dose Wednesday and Friday, and then 3 this coming week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then we'll have to wait and see after that.
Well, we're gonna pray for you to bring you through, keep you in the family and stuff. And I'm not gonna dominate, but let me just say one other thing. Because remember, we didn't have doctors and hospitals in this country for Blacks until the early 1900s. Okay. That's right. So what we had to do is use our African understanding to get over. Yeah. Yes, sir. So, and even when we got some, doctors wouldn't treat us. That's why there's big disparity, even as we speak. So it was because of Africa that we took care of each other, and we knew how to use that. And so, this is our history. This is our legacy. This is who we are.
Yeah, I was thinking about, I think I asked my grandmother to go to the OBGYN. That would have really been quite of a show. Yeah. if you know what I'm talking about.
Leave it alone.
I just like to say real quickly, and it'll be quick too, that as I listened to the things that were talked about, I am a part of the Yoruba family, and being a part of them, I heard some Pentecostal talked about, and I see most of my family are Pentecostal people. I'm seeing some of the history of what we still connect to, from medications to the herbs and everything that we done that I learned. We still practice some of that stuff today. Some of the elders are gone, but we still, some of those things were left to us that we still do go to the woods and get certain things. And I think we're much better than what we do by going to the doctor. We were much healthier people. And it's a beautiful thing. Even when I watch them in the church, seeing them falling out in the spirit, knowing where that come from. I was in a class with another brother out of the Yoruba people, and he brought that out, and finding out that, oh, this is where you come from. This is what you connected to. This is a part of you now. Now you know where that Pentecostal come from. They kept that. Many things we still keep here that we still practice. We just didn't finish it out because it got changed through the European people. It got cut off.
Yeah.
And we're doing stuff that we don't even realize it, that it's still coming from Africa.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're spiritual people. Always have
Yes.
been.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we brought the spirit here.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later.
Absolutely. Great.
Well, I do want to thank each and every one of you, each and every single one of you, for just logging on today, staying on, adding to the conversation, sharing your thoughts, having an open mind. I think it's been a great meeting, which is evident in the amount of people who are still logged on now. And hopefully this can be something that we can continue on next Sunday as well. So with that being said, I don't have anything else except another huge thank you. And hope you all have a great week. And we'll see you again next Sunday.
All right.
Thank you, Brother Justin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
I'll pray for you, Brother Louis. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Thank you. That was very informative.
All right. I appreciate that. Have a good week.
Thank you, family.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.